Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Paul, Carter, and Menti. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope everybody's having a wonderful day no matter where you are in the world. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please make sure to like and subscribe and help us hit our 10K mark. And also make sure you have your notifications on for all of the new content that'll be coming out. We obviously have our Europa game this week on Thursday against USG. And then we have a much anticipated matchup with Manchester United on Sunday at 4:30 in the day. So let's hopefully get some good numbers for that. We'll have no specific post-game streams this week. It'll just be the regular stream that will be happening at 7:45 UK time on Thursday, as the game is on at 5:45 UK time. And then on Sunday, the game will only be finishing at about the 6:30 mark. So we'll just run our normal 7:30 stream that day, and that means then you can just join us then at 7:30 on Sunday following the game. But without further ado, we will get into some of the news. And Liverpool finished the week on top of the Premier League following Arsenal getting slapped by Aston Villa and not being able to score for 98 minutes of a game, which they then complained about the referees for some particular reason. I don't know why. But to be fair, I do know the reason. It was the handball by Matty Cash that was then handballed by Kai Havertz, which they then gave a free kick to Aston Villa, and they were claiming that it's fraudulent and it's rigged because apparently the referee was a Liverpool fan. But nobody batted an eye when a Manchester United referee or a Manchester Greater Area referee refed us against Man City, but that's neither here nor there. The first topic I kind of want to get into is how mathematically and hopefully in practice and theory rather we win the league, because I genuinely think that we have a serious contention of winning the league. And just doing the maths on it earlier, we could if there's 22 games left, of which 12 of them are home games, 10 of them are away games. We then have, of that 66, we have 90, of that 22, we have 66 points that are left available. If we were to win out, we would end on 107 or 104 points, thereabouts. So realistically, I think myself, we only need about 85 to 90 to win the league. So if we add 50 points, which is 17 out of the 22 games that are won, if we add 50 points, I think we win the league. Paul, I think my maths are okay in that prediction, considering how we are on home form. We're 100%. We've yet to lose a game, and our away form seems to be picking up at the right time during this busy schedule. Do you envision us, hopefully, I know it's a bit premature to be saying it now, and you'd rather say it in April, maybe even late March, early April, you'd rather say, okay, we're definitely in for a title shot here. Do you think that we have a chance of it if we execute over the next 22 games?
This weekend is the first time since the beginning of this season that I started to tell myself, you know what? We have a legitimate shot. Other than Arsenal away, I don't see any away game that should scare us. Maybe Villa. But when I look at it, we have 12 games at home. If we win, we need to defend our home turf. If we win, say, 10 and get a point in the other two, so that would be what? 32 points?
32 points.
Yes. And even if we lose 2 away, say we lose to Villa and Arsenal, I think we have a very good shot if we can find a way to put away those bottom of the table teams when we go away to them. I think, and that's why I was so pleased about the 3 points that we got this weekend, because we didn't play good. We were lucky, I think, because for me that second yellow card was very soft. But these are the kind of luck that you need to win a championship. There are quite a few championships that we have lost to City. 2 I can recall that they won because of luck. I'll never forget that penalty that should have been granted to Everton in the dead moments, which would have made the game 1-1 instead of 3 points to City. And we lost the league by 1 point that year. So that's luck. So Arsenal, they won a game last week in the 97th minute against Luton. So that's luck. So I'm not ashamed to say that we played poorly and we got 3 points. To win a championship, you need games like that. What is critical is we need to defend our home turf, and the games against the teams that are around us, when we play them, is even more critical because those games are 6-pointer. When we play, all well and good to beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, but if we really want to win the championship, we need to not lose to Arsenal, not lose to Man City when they come to Anfield, and not lose to Villa when we go there. If we can accomplish those, even if we draw with those teams, and then win the game we're supposed to win, we have a very good shot because I'm pretty confident that those teams are going to drop points too. It's not like Arsenal and Man City is going to run the table. So as long as we take care of business, this is the first time I would say that it is in our control. And I like where we are. And plus, one final take where I think we have a very good shot this year. This is the first for a long time we have a bench. We have a bench where if things are not going well, we have a bench. Previously, if the guys on the field is not able to get it done, we're screwed. Now we have a bench. So I'm fairly confident, but we need to take care of business.
Yeah, I agree with you. If we get those, so as you mentioned, we have 12 home games left. If we win 10 of those, that's 30 points there immediately. We then only need 20 points from the remaining 12 games to probably win the league, as 30 points would have us on 67 at the moment. And then from that, I think we'd only need another 20 to probably win the league from the last 12, which is realistically, you win 6 and draw 2. There's your 20 points. You could lose the rest. Not that we want to, but it's a predictive thing to look at. Carter, the games that we have left to play away from home at the moment: Arsenal, Villa, United, West Ham, Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham, Forest, Everton, Burnley. As Paul mentioned, there's 2 of them that are 6-pointers, which would be Arsenal and Aston Villa. If we steal points there, because Villa seem to be very, very good at home, and Arsenal, obviously, we're not going to take them for granted. I'd rather just put them in the ground and be done with it. The remaining games, however, United, West Ham, Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham might be a bit tricky considering their current form. Forest, Everton is always going to be a fight because it's the Merseyside derby. And then you have Burnley. They're the remaining away games. Realistically, on paper, this is looking very doable. What do you think?
I think it is. I think, as you said, Villa and Arsenal are going to be the 2 difficult ones. But I think one of our probably best performances was against Aston Villa. So that's kind of one where I'm looking and thinking, I think I'd be more confident against them definitely than Arsenal. But just as you guys were sort of discussing, the main thing that I've got in the back of my mind, because I think Arsenal are probably going to be 80, 85 points, is a ginger fella from Belgium. And it's just, if he comes back and he plays 18 games, City might win all 18. Like, it is just, he's the person, like, looking over your shoulder, seeing when he's coming back. Like, I think the games do look favourable, but I also think I don't know how reliable this is, but for, like, fantasy football, Haaland's dad, cousin, and someone else have all taken him out of their team, like, transferred him out. So hopefully if Haaland's out, De Bruyne's out for a bit longer, we can hopefully win our sort of next set of games, because we've got Arsenal twice in sort of maybe 8-9 weeks. If we can sort of win all those games, we might be able to mount a good sort of gap between us and the rest. Because I think we've got sort of the stamina to carry on just because our squad is so deep. Whereas I think Arsenal with the Champions League might get a bit, they're not used to having 2 games a week. Villa with the conference, City squad is quite thin. So I feel like we've just got to take it, as some of the comments said, game at a time. But I think 2 big games against Arsenal, especially the cup game, I think beat Arsenal in the cup, beat them in the league, and put the fear of God in them for when they come to Anfield, and we should be all right.
See, the interesting one about that, and I'll follow up with yourself on it, is which would you rather? Would you rather make Arsenal play more games and lose that FA Cup? Paul, I believe it was you that asked me this question a while ago. Would you rather win that game in the FA Cup but lose the league game or drop points in the league game? which one would you rather? Because if you think about it, to your point of mentioning them having more fixtures, the further they go in cup tournaments, the better it would refer to us in the league, so to speak. So which would you rather? Beat them in the cup and knock them out, or beat them in the league?
Personally, I'd rather the league, because I just think a cup's a cup. Like, we've got players here, I don't care. If Salah wins another FA Cup, no one's going to care. If he wins another Premier League, it's a big thing. But I think we just have to, no matter what, we have to go out and win each game. We have to put, I think they might crumble against us a bit after last season. I think we might just have their number a bit. So I think we just got to go out there and we just got to just on them from the start. Heads might drop, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we beat them in all three.
Hopefully. I'd look, just win. I don't care how, I don't care why, I don't care by what means, but as long as it's a win by 1 goal or 10, the points are still the same and we still get 3 points. And El Hero mentions here, obviously, the rotation will be very crucial for the Cups. And Alan obviously mentioned as well that the Villa is the last away game of the season for us, and that can be absolutely crucial. And he's very right. Menti, in relation to us at the moment and us as a team looking internally, right now, one might say we're not necessarily performing at our best, but yet still getting results. How and where do you feel we need to improve that? And what signings do you think we need to bring in? Is it just a centre-back, or do you still think we need to target a centre-back and a CDM to really push for multiple types of silverware this season? Europa, FA, Carabao, and the Premier League, ultimately.
For me, I completely agree with what Paul and Carter said, but I still think we do need a CDM as well as a left centre-back. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of links that's been happening recently. I feel like if FSG and Klopp really want to win, they have to go out and get a CDM, because you can see some of these performances, they've been very poor. And I feel like if we do not get those positions, I don't feel like it's sustainable. I get the comeback kings thing, but we're going to start playing better teams. Like they said, Aston Villa away, that's going to be crucial. Arsenal's pretty good as well. KDB, he's terrifying. So whenever he comes back, we all know City is going to be a problem. So they're hunters. So I'm not worried about any other team besides City. But I think those are the two positions that we definitely need to go in that market if we want to actually get trophies. And I know Salah wants to stay. If we win the Prem and qualify for UCL, Salah's extending easy. So that's how I'm looking at it.
I agree, yeah. I think he is as well. And my only thing of not being worried about City is, it's not that I'm not worried, but they worry me less this season, purely because they're not the same team. They're not this unflappable, monstrous machine that just continues to march forward. Yeah. Now, KDB could come back and completely revamp that team. I'm not saying that. But if you're hitting a busy Christmas schedule, and Carter, as you mentioned, there are rumours that people close to Haaland have taken him out of their fantasy Premier League teams. It's a telling sign, and in a busy Christmas schedule where you'll be facing a lot of teams and a lot of condensed fixtures, something may go wrong and it may take weeks to fix it, and you might not have the time or the opportunity. Now, am I saying that will happen to City? It may do. And all of a sudden, they might find themselves in a hole in 5th or 6th place all of a sudden if results don't go their way. And I don't even think Kevin De Bruyne and them winning 18 straight would be able to dig them out of that hole, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, not unfortunately. It's just one of them things. I think they could end, if Haaland is out long term, even if he's not back till middle of January, that's a major amount of fixtures he'll be missing. And a lot of and we could end up propelling ourselves forward and be ahead of them and Arsenal by double-digit points by the end of 2023, which would be a massive vantage point for us at the moment. But one of the things that I wanted to mention is the next topic that we'll get into. But before we get into that, I do want to say thank you so much to Jen, another £4.99, with a message of saying, please note if we win at the weekend, you want a festive Kev, don't worry, I will pass that message on. I'll make sure that he gets it. We'll try and get him out in the Christmas jumper for you, Jen, hopefully. One of the things that was mentioned here, Menti, before we move on to the next part of it, and it is included in the next part of it, you mentioning that we need to get some signings, and obviously that was the topic myself and yourself discussed. But Halier mentions here, of course, if Thiago and Robertson are back in January, it'll feel like new signings. Still, there's something unsolved which affects almost any player in this team. So even with now, say your fingers crossed, hopefully that Thiago comes back, but Andy Robertson is currently back on the pitch and training, and Klopp has mentioned that Thiago is looking to be back in the new year. Now, there's been no specific date for Thiago to come back, but it's good signs considering we'll be getting one of the best left backs in the world back on the pitch. So do you still think we need to bolster depth at those positions, such as left centre back and CDM, or would you, if both of them came back fully fit, would you feel like we need to address it?
I still think we need to address it just because Thiago, I love him. 200K a week, and we haven't seen him play in so long just because of his history. I 100% think we need to go get a CDM. I don't know if they're going to extend him or not, but he just has to play for me to back him up. He's a great player. I'm not taking anything away. And Robertson as well, just because if you look at it, he's age 32. He's not going to get any younger at all. So, yeah, I definitely still think having a strong roster, we could win more titles for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. As Paul, as Menti mentioned, Thiago's earning a nice little fat wage for himself sitting on the bench and in the medical tent, so to speak. So do you like? I'm very skeptical of him coming back at all this season, and he may just be let go in the summer. Do you see him ever playing in a Liverpool shirt again? Possibly, maybe towards the end of the season, if even, because I think his hip is completely fucked. To be honest with you.
Yeah, if Thiago come back and play another 5-7 games, I consider that bonus. I think we would like to have him back for sure, but I think the club is equipped and has been planning for life without Thiago. So if he doesn't come back, I think we'll be fine. If he does come back, it's a bonus. The guy that's more important is Robbo, right? Robbo is, because if everybody is fit, then Robbo is a sure starter. Right now, there's nothing to say that Thiago will start, So I'm really happy to hear that Robbo is back in training, and hopefully we should see him sometime middle of January, I'm guessing. But Thiago, it would be nice if he's back, can come off the bench and give us a good 30-40 minutes if we need something, need a spark, right? But I am not... I would be surprised if it really happened. Thiago reminded me of this guy that we signed last year on loan. What was his name? He played like 5 minutes. Arthur Melo. Arthur Melo. He's just sitting on it. It's just a waste. And I see no reason for us to extend Thiago beyond this year, because we can't rely on him. So no. But as to what we need, I still believe that we need a left-sided centre back. Right, because there are times when we need that guy who can, if we're going to play 3 at the back, if we need somebody to, if Robbo is not able to go and we don't want to play Tsimikas, I would need a good solid defensive structure. I think that's a greater need right now than a CDM, but we could do it both. I hear talk about Paulina, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll touch on as well. And in relation, and Carter, basically similar question to you. Do you think we've seen the last of Thiago in a Liverpool shirt? It would be unfortunate considering the talent that man has with a ball at his feet. It's just availability is the best ability, unfortunately, and he doesn't seem to be able to be available. Maybe something went wrong with the surgery or whatever it may be, or maybe it's just a prolonged time to come back, or it's age, or it's a combination of things. Paul mentioned that we should get a left-sided centre-back more than we would need a CDM. I'll pose the question to you. If Matip wasn't injured, would you agree? Or is it due to the Matip injury that there's possibly more emphasis on the need for a centre-back at this moment?
I think the way I look at it is a defensive midfielder makes us better. Another defender stops us getting worse. Because if we lose the defenders, realistically, Endo played centre half. I do not want to see him play centre half. You saw Lautaro Martinez, who's a much better on-ball defender. Not on-ball, on with the ball. I do not want to see Endo play. Maybe he can have a Europa League game there, but not that kind of game. And I think the issue is with signing a 6, I think, because you've got so many players, and I think a big thing is blocking the path of Bajcetic is a big thing for the club. And the way I look at it as well is like with Thiago, personally, I think he's head and shoulders the best midfielder at the club by a mile. Even if you're going to ask me if Trent in midfield and Thiago, I still think Thiago is a better midfielder than Trent. I just think if Thiago, and I know you said availability, if Thiago played every game this season, I think we probably win every game apart from maybe the City one. Like, I think he's that good. And I think if you look at Thiago and think you can get 18 games a season, genuinely, because I know he's had the big injury, I think he wins 17. I just don't see... I think all the analytics guys as well will love him. They'll look, unless maybe his legs have completely gone by the time he comes back, I think they'll look and go, statistically, he wins the most tackles, he's the best tackler, he progresses the ball the most, he does all of this the best. I think they'll look and say, we can keep him, or we sign maybe a bit part midfielder who's going to play the same amount of games, maybe 18 games, and we have to spend a load of money, whereas we can keep Thiago, and then if we maybe get to a January and go, he's completely done, like he's never going to play again, then we can make that decision. But I think everything points towards like Klopp really liking him. And I think when you look at someone, and people might not agree with this, you look at Modric, the age he's played to. I know he's had more availability, but if you look at sort of similar style of midfielder, he can play for a long time. And I don't see, even if maybe if he's happy, he knows he's not going to be able to be fit and play. If he's happy to be 7th or 8th, like in the pecking order, he'll still play, even if they tell, like, if you're not as good. But I think he is good enough and he will just find a way into the team when fit.
Yeah, it really is just a question of fitness, to be honest. It's just an awkward one because I think we've seen the last of him. I don't think he's coming back. He's 32, he had a serious hip injury, and he's just had setback after setback. I think this may be it, and we may never see him again. But it's awkward, unfortunately. And he's earning 200k a week. I think we could save an awful lot of money on that. Paul, seeing as you were mentioning about Paulinho, I just want to throw this question as she came in from Hellier. If you look at the Premier League table, the 11 best teams that would currently be there at the moment, so from us all the way down to 11, name any of those teams with a worse 6 than we have at the moment. Now, that's Alexis McAllister playing out of position. Do you see anybody that's there with a worse number 6 out of them? I can name the teams if you need a memory refresh on any of them.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me see.
So we have Liverpool, Arsenal, Villa. I'll go through them one by one. So we have Arsenal, Declan Rice. I'd assume you'd think he's better.
Better than us, yep.
Aston Villa, which would be Douglas Luiz.
Yep.
And then City with Rodri.
Absolutely.
Hotspur, that'd be Sarr, I'd be nearly sure, wouldn't it?
I think
Bissouma.
It's a double pivot.
But Bissouma is hot and cold. You know, when he's good, he's decent. But when he's not good, he's terrible. So yeah. I'm not so sure if I would... If to answer the question would be, would I take
yes, that's probably the better question.
Yeah, I would not take Bissouma over what we have right now. Because, as I said, he has had some decent games, but I've seen him look terrible. He just looked too lackadaisical to me. I mean, we can disagree, but I'm not a big fan.
No, I agree with you as well. The next one then after that would be United, which would be Casemiro or Amrabat. I don't think you'd take either of them at the moment.
No.
Newcastle United, that would have been Tonali, but it's now Bruno Guimaraes. Would you take him over McAllister?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without
I'd take him too.
He's top 4, top 5. He's good.
Yeah. Brighton, who do they have at CDM at the moment?
They play like
Carlos.
Baleba.
He was the lad who played quite well against us.
That's the new young kid, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a young guy. Yeah.
He was tied to us and we didn't get him.
Yeah, well, I think that was more so somebody tried to spark a rumor because they went and so us trying to basically piss off Brighton by going and taking their guy since they sent Caicedo to Chelsea. And then after that is West Ham United.
Alvarez.
I'd say
Alvarez
he's better.
Or Ward-Prowse.
Or Ward, it's either one of them really.
I think Alvarez plays deeper.
Yeah.
He plays as like the 6.
Yeah.
And then we have Fulham then in 10th, which is Paulinho. I take Paulinho.
Oh yeah.
And then we have Brentford. Who plays CDM for Brentford?
Norgard, I'd say he's better than McAllister as a 6.
Yeah. Well,
What about
that's realistically
Chelsea?
the Chelsea are 12th. They're not top 11, so we won't.
Okay, okay.
Well, we
Is it-
can include them, which is Caicedo and Endo and Lavia, and there's like 3 of them there. And I'll be perfectly honest, I take McAllister over all 3 of them, given their current form.
And the
Given
thing
their
is, you know,
current form.
Okay.
Okay.
when I talk about getting one of these guys as a 6, you have to think, how would they fit? Would they start in our best 11, and who would they start in place of? Is it that you would play one of these guys along with Szoboszlai and McAllister, and then have Gavin Birch, Curtis Jones, everybody on the bench? Because a lot of these guys that we're talking, I don't see them getting into the team ahead of what we currently have. You know, Paulina for sure. But as I said, I am not against having a 6, you know. But for example, we were linked in the offseason with the guy from Palace. What's his name? Decore?
Yeah.
Yeah, Decore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I wasn't really that excited because he's a very good tackler. But he doesn't progress the ball enough for me. And we are not a team that is built to win 1-0. That's my point. We're a team that will win more games 4-3, 3-2, 5-4 than 1-0. So if we're going to take out one of our progressive midfield players to play a 6, then we are going to try and win games 1-0 instead of 4-3. So there is a lot to say about scoring goals. So I guess there's a number of ways to bell the cat, you know. So that is why I am not one of those who's crying that we cannot win the league without a 6. Look at our record. You know, there's a famous quote in NFL that you are what your record say you are. What is our record? We're top of the league. We have scored more goals than anybody else in the league, and we have considered the joint lowest amount of goals. So that doesn't strike me as a team who is struggling. If you are number 1 in the league, you score more than everybody else, and you are joint first in terms of amount you conceded. And plus, we have the best goalkeeper in the world. So would I like a 6? Sure. But I'm not one of those who are going to say, if we don't get Pauline or we don't get a 6, we're not going to win the league. We are just going to outscore people. And that's just it. And what I think I like about Klopp too is that Klopp is not rigid. Because the last couple of games, when you look at his substitution, I'm saying, what is he thinking? But they all work. So this is a manager that has the pulse of his team. He knows what he has on the bench. He knows, you know, he's not rigid in saying that you're going to come on at 65 minutes, you're at 80, you know. So I really, really like our team, and I think we have a very good shot. Even if we don't sign anybody else, as long as we don't have any devastating injuries, you know, to key players. Right now, as it relates to the defenders, we are at a position now where we cannot accommodate one more injury, right? Because Matip is down, and we have Kwanzaa and Gomez as a backup. Keep him a backup, but I would prefer to sign another centre back if we can only sign one player. Again, as I said, you guys may disagree, but that's why we have a discussion or a debate.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I disagree with you if Matip wasn't injured. But as he is injured, we're fairly thin on depth at the centre-back position. And I think signing a centre-back for now and the future would be very beneficial for us and would possibly help us push us forward and stop goals, meaning our goal difference goes up, meaning we would win a game 3-1 rather than 3-2. And that's, at the end of the day, 3 points is 3 points, but that's a more comfortable victory. That's, and as El Hero mentions here, like Konate's made of glass. He's going to get injured before the end of the season again, which means then you have Kwanzaa and Joe Gomez. And Joe Gomez is cover for the right back and the centre back. And his injury history isn't exactly the best either. So we're one injury away from being very, very thin at the centre back position. So signing somebody else there would massively help our depth.
And I don't want to see Joe Gomez at left back again.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jace Hickman makes a comment here, Menti and Carter, and I'll throw this question to the two of you. This is in relation to the Paulinho rumours. How are we looking at a 28-year-old for around 60 million, but saying no to a 22-year-old for 34 million? I'm assuming the 22-year-old for 34 million is Andre. That's who you're referring to, Jace. But correct me if I'm wrong, please, in that assumption. Menti, I'll throw the question to you. Why do you think Liverpool are currently looking at a 28-year-old rather than a 22-year-old for half the price?
We've talked about it like many times on this streams. Like, we don't want to hinder Bajcetic. So
That's
honestly,
exactly
if we did get Paulinho, I say we'd win the league easily. Just because then Bajcetic just starts learning from him. He's going to learn from Thiago from however much time he has. But I just see Bajcetic as the future six. I think that's the only reason why they're leaning towards Paulinho.
Yeah, that was essentially going to be my answer as well.
Yeah.
More or less, Carter, his age profile, 28. Bajcetic is about 20 now at the moment. Sign him to now this is the hypothetical if we get him. Sign Paulinho to a 4-year deal. We get him in his prime maturity years between 28 to 32. Unfortunately, his body will start breaking down at 32 and he wouldn't necessarily be able to keep up anymore. However, at that point, you have Stefan Bajcetic coming in at 24 years old, having grown into his body physically matured, mentally matured, been able to keep up with a more physical game. And he would then just be able to take over the mantle and go forward. So I feel the correct answer to the question would be we're spending 60 now to save spending 100 in 4 years' time, which would be my logic behind it, rather than spending 34 on somebody that's 22 and then all of a sudden you have to go and find a new youth guy to come in to replace either the 22-year-old or Stefan Bajcetic. Would you be in agreement with Menti on that as well, that it's purely the age profile and it kind of fits the timeline of Bajcetic?
I think that's part of it, but I also think Andre and McAllister are quite similar, and I think it's a thing of on paper Andre is a 6, but the system that Fluminense play is very fluid, and the things he's asked to do as a 6 would be quite different to what he's asked to do as a 6 for us. And I think I'd almost compare Paulinho. I don't know if you guys, obviously 2 Americans here, but with the Toronto Raptors got Kawhi Leonard, who was a superstar basketball player, and they knew 1 year this is your chance. I think personally for us, if you said to me at the start of the season, Casemiro was at Real Madrid and you might get 1 or 2 years, I would say, yes, spend the 60 million, because sometimes it's worth taking the gamble, even if Paulinho is only good for 2 years. If you've got a team to win now, if you've got Mo Salah, if you've got Van Dijk, if you've got Trent, if you've got Salah, realistically, we're not going to have 4 players as good as this or 5 players as good as this at the same time again. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to go and sign someone who's ready to win. When we were sort of in our dominant period, everyone apart from Trent and maybe Gomez, all the main players were 24 to 27, 28. They were all ready to go. They were all grown into their bodies. They played a lot of minutes and we were just able to go and go and go. So I don't think it would be a negative for us to maybe look and go, Paulinho's prem ready, whereas Andre might come in. You look at Brighton, they sign loads of these South American guys, but sometimes it takes them a year or 2 out on loan. Caicedo went out for a year, McAllister went out for a year. Trying to think, but they normally give them a year in another European league, get more used to the pace and maybe just even the officiating and stuff, and then they bring them in. So I think Andre would be good, but also we have Bajcetic, and also we need to win now. If you would say Bajcetic and Andre is there, who would you rather give the minutes to if they both need to learn? I'd rather personally Bajcetic. So I just think it's a bit you're just crowding the space and you should maybe go for a win now player.
Yeah, that's essentially my attitude towards it as well. And Jace comes back with this comment in relation to what Menti was saying. Bajcetic is injured and nobody's certain he will ever fully recover, and both him and Andre will be more logical. I'll give it to you, Menti, as well, because considering that it was aimed at you, but I'll answer it in my own way as well before I let you give your piece on it. Essentially repeating what Carter mentioned, he's prem ready, whereas you'd have to wait for Andre to come, acclimatise. Andre is another Bajcetic. He'd have to come, he'd have to acclimatise, he'd then have to get up to speed. And we're in win now mode, where, as Carter mentioned, there's players that may not be here in 2 to 3 years' time. They may be past their peak in 2 to 3 years' time. If we spend 60 million and we get 2 to 3 Premier Leagues out of it, I'm not going to argue with that. And Jace, we don't need a Thiago replacement. We need a Fabinho replacement. Thiago is very much a luxury player. We need somebody that can come in there and destroy players in that CDM role. Menti, the comment was aimed at yourself in relation to how Bajcetis injury concerns are there, and having him and Andre would be more logical. Do you have an opinion on that, of having that, or would you be much in a similar vein of thought to Carter and be like, we need a Prem-ready CDM now, and paying a premium for him now will pay off in the long run?
No, I agree with Carter too. And in terms of his injury, it's just like he's literally growing into his body. We got to realize how young these kids are. Like, you see it happen in the Petri. It's happening everywhere around Europe. And, you know, when he played, when we needed him, he was really our best player for like a good period of time. He's literally just growing into his body. It's not something that's like going to hinder his whole career. You just got to, you know, let him just basically grow, go through all the trainers. But yeah, no, I think he'll be fine. You just got to give it time. He's just growing. He's very young.
Yeah, I think that's purely the issue as well. It's we're trying to avoid what's happened to the likes of Rasmus Højlund, where he has stress fractures.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you look at what happened to, if you overplay somebody, Haaland, the robot, he's now apparently got a stress fracture in his foot, or a fracture in his foot, from continuing playing. And apparently after the Villa game, the last time, or was it the game against Luton, or the game against Villa, the last time they played, apparently he couldn't walk. So overplaying a player that may be having something niggle at them is only a recipe for disaster, I feel. And if Andre was to come in, if Andre doesn't work out, well, then we've just missed out on Paulinho that we could have known would probably have a higher chance of working out. It's signing a rookie as opposed to signing a 5 or 6 year vet. You know what they can do because they've been in the league for 5 or 6 years, and you can see them at it. And also, Paulinho has very little minutes in a top tier. I say top tier. It's not fair on the Portuguese league to say that. In the top 2 to 3 leagues in the world, he has absolutely bugger all minutes other than his maximum amount of minutes in the Prem, which means his legs don't have as many minutes on them as most other players the same age as him at the same intensity, shall we say. But I think Paulinho would be the better option. If you offered me 60 million and we possibly have the opportunity to win the next 3 Premier League titles, including the one we're aiming for at the moment, I'd take that deal all day long, in my own opinion on that. Before we move on to the last number of topics, we have 2 issues with Loanees, and we have another signing as well in discussion. Please make sure to like and subscribe, help us hit our 10K mark, and make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos. We very much appreciate all the help that everybody gives us for liking and subscribing and sharing and everything. It really does make our day when we get updates. We recently only hit 300,000 followers on Twitter. So thank you guys so much for everybody that follows us on Twitter as well. That's a major achievement. Page has been up there for 6-7 years now, when Dan initially set it up just to chat about Liverpool, and now it has over 250,000 subscribers, 300,000 followers on it. It's absolutely nuts, and we very much appreciate it, each and every one of you. So thank you so much for that, guys. David, I'm going to ask you to stop spamming the chat with this. I've seen it about 20, if not 30 times. You've put in the same thing a number of different times. Just we've seen it. We've put it up on the screen. There's no need to keep putting in the same stuff over and over again. We appreciate the chat and we appreciate the comments, but just if there's no point in putting it in 50 times and it being shown once, because then it gets clogged up on it. Just don't be at that, please, if you can. So moving on to some issues in relation to some loanees. And actually, before I get into that, seeing as we were discussing Paulinho and some signings, another guy that we've been linked with is Maximilian Bayer, who plays as a striker, he plays the Diogo Jota role with Hoffenheim at the moment. He starts as a centre forward. He can also play left wing. He can play right wing. He can play all across the front three. And Liverpool seem to be interested in him. He has a release clause of £25 million. So far, he's 6 goals and 4 assists in the Bundesliga for Hoffenheim. He's a right footer. Probably not the best thing for Paul because Paul does love his left footers. But he's a big guy. He's nearly 6'5" or 6'4". He's a big dude. He's very slender, so he'd be like a Peter Crouch, funnily enough. But it's an interesting signing to look at. And Menti, I'll come to yourself first on this. To me, this possibly hints at the departure of somebody from that front line to reinvigorate with some youth. Would you be of a similar thinking, or is this just let's add more youth, let's get younger, and let's have people competing for positions? Because our front line is pretty stacked as it is at the moment.
I feel like if they do bring in an attacker, which is likely because Liverpool always go for attackers rather than other positions we need, someone would have to leave. I mean, I don't see that working out. I don't know who it would be. Maybe Lucho to Barca. I see that rumor, but I think it might just be silly season right now.
Yeah, silly season is abound, and we're only half a month away from it all breaking out, and poor Fabrizio Romano not sleeping and tweeting constantly, even though he says he doesn't have a team that does it for him, even though he was on interview and had tweets coming out at the same time while on interview. I know you can schedule them, but he very clearly has everything, has a team behind him. Carter, similar question to yourself. This screams possibly a Diogo Jota departure in the summer if this signing was to take place. Do you agree, or is it just silly season as Menti has mentioned? Because Maximilian is a good player. He's got 10 goals, or he's got 10 goal contributions so far in the Bundesliga. It's not as if that's an easy league to score in either, and it's for a lower tiered team. It's not one of the top tier teams. So realistically, at a £25 million release clause to bring him in as a Diogo Jota or a Luis Diaz replacement, he's a right footer, so he can play on the left wing. Paul does love his right footers on the left wing, but he wants a left footer on the right wing. Do you think this is just silly season, or is it just give me a couple of your thoughts on him as a player, if you've looked into him at all, or if you've heard anything about him as well?
As probably most of us maybe on this stream, I had a little YouTube earlier in the day and I had a little look, but I just think it's the links to our sporting director, Klopp's German. We're probably only now going to see just anyone who has a good game in the Bundesliga is going to be now linked to us. So I just think it's a bit of silly season. It wouldn't be a bad signing, but I think the issue is, I know you said sort of bring in some youth, but probably the two players you'd say he's most similar to are Nunez and Gakpo, and they are the two youngest. So unless you do look at maybe playing him off the left, you're going to have 3 sort of 24 and lower tall strikers who are all going to want to play in the same position. So for me, it just doesn't make sense. And personally, I think we've got Cade Gordon. He's someone who's 15, who played in the Championship, which is nothing to snuff your nose at. We've got Doak, who showed moments sort of against Villa. Probably, was it around this time last year?
Yeah.
He showed sort of moments. And for me, the big one I would probably rather give Cade Gordon minutes than spend a fee on this guy. Because I just think even just to play football at 15, the level and sort of physical prowess you're going to have to be, you've got to have, is going to be very good. So I just think it's probably silly season, and we'll probably see a lot more Bundesliga links. We'll probably get linked to Florian Wirtz now every 2 weeks till the summer, but it's just how it is.
Yeah, Paul, it is realistically similarly to what happened in the summertime, that we were getting links to every CDM under the sun. Caicedo, Lavia, there was even rumours that we were waiting for the likes of a Tchouaméni or Camavinga from Real Madrid to come available, or some of their CDMs, or CDMs across Europe that everybody knew we were in for one, so it was just easy clicks. This one seems a little bit counterintuitive, though, considering we have a very stacked front line. So why would we be interested in a striker? He is clinical in his finishing. He has 10 goals or assists in all of his games so far. do you think this is just purely silly season, or is there any merit to any of these reports? Is there any smoke without fire?
I think it's silly season, to be honest. You say it's clinical, but you need a greater history. Just
Yes.
10 games is not enough to say someone is clinical. There's two schools of thought to look at it. You could say, and I agree, that you can never have too much talent. But at the same time, on the flip side, when you have a limited budget like us, because we have always have a limited budget as LFCs, you have to spend the money in your greatest need. And I'm not so sure if he would be our greatest need right now. I don't know much about him, really, but based on what I've researched on YouTube since today and what I've read online and what you guys are saying, it kind of doesn't really make much of a sense to me, especially when you look at a guy like, what's his name? Bakayoko.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's roughly the same age. He is playing or has played for his national team. He has vastly more experience, run about the same price tag, and he also plays a different position on the front line because he's left-footed. So a guy like Bakayoko would make more sense to me. So I wouldn't think that we would go for this guy, but who knows? Maybe it's just the agent again trying to create a buzz, get his name out there, and hope that maybe Man U or Chelsea might come and grab him before us. That's usually happens.
Yeah.
So that could
Everton are actually interested. It was reported that Everton are interested in him as well. So it could just be,
Riverside to get the price up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he does have a release clause, but it is. I think it's silly season as well. Yeah. Michael, thank you so much for your $2. Gordon, I'm assuming Cade Gordon, is rubbish, period. If you'd like to elaborate on that so that we can actually get an opinion formulated on that, that'd be great. I appreciate the $2, but if you want to throw in another comment, just let us know why you think he's rubbish. Carter and Menti were there shaking their heads, so I'm sure they'd love to debate you on that, but appreciate the $2 nonetheless, Michael. It's very much appreciated. Everything goes back to the channel, and we always do. Thank everybody that has donated to ourselves. But if you want to have a debate on that, Michael, please feel free to fire in your reasoning behind why you think Cade Gordon's rubbish, and I'll let Carter and Menti debate you, as they both were very staunchly shaking their head there. But speaking of our younger players, there's two at the moment that seem to be having issues while abroad. We both have Rhys Williams, who's playing for Aberdeen at the moment, who has yet to even see the field, which is very disappointing. And then we also have Fabio Carvalho, who hasn't scored or assisted on a goal in about 7 games. He started 1 game for RB Leipzig. He had links to Roma, AC Milan, Frankfurt, and Burnley, and turned them all down for the move to RB Leipzig, and it doesn't seem to have been working out for him, unfortunately. But I'll start on Rhys Williams first. Menti, I'll come to you on this. Seeing as this is a very FSG thing, we have a bit of an issue in relation to depth at the centre-back position. Would bringing Rhys Williams back as a centre-back depth be worth our while, considering he's not getting any minutes at Aberdeen? He might as well come back with us and play in some Carabao Cup or some early FA Cup games. I say early. We got drawn by Arsenal straight away, and I obviously wouldn't start that game. But any games against any lower-tiered sides that would happen after that, could very well see that happening. It's a very FSG move. Do you see it happening, or do you see us maybe just leaving him in Aberdeen and basically putting the foot down and saying either he plays or we pull him?
I think they're going to keep him there. I don't think he's going to come back. I love the dude. He's really good when he played for us. He was crucial at the time, but I just don't see him getting into this team.
No, me too.
Not at all.
Me too.
Even with the depth issues at the moment?
No, 0 shot. They'd rather go buy a new center back than bring him back. I personally think.
How I look at it is that if we thought that he was good enough, he would still be with the team, because a lot of us didn't know how good Kwanzaa was, but the team obviously recognized something in Kwanzaa and decided to keep him. And also, if we're desperate, they probably would be more inclined to go for Nat Phillips. Rhys Williams.
Yeah.
Because at least Nat Phillips have quite a bit more experience, and Nat Phillips can play. I was really surprised that he didn't get more opportunities, because in that year when we had all of that injuries, when Van Dijk was out for the year and we had Fabinho and Henderson playing at centre back sometime, I think Nat Phillips did well, So I think Nat Phillips would be ahead of Rhys Williams. Rhys Williams is what? He's like 6'5", 6'6", something there. He's very tall, but
he's a big dude.
yeah.
He is a big dude. He's 195 centimeters that had come in at about 6'4", 6'5".
Right. So if the team saw him as at that level where we could use him, he would probably still be on the bench somewhere. So I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if we sell him to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be a shame because I think he has potential, but as Menti mentioned, Carter, he doesn't think he'd get into the team as it is at the moment, purely because there'd be certain players ahead of them. But what do you think yourself? Do you think could it be possible that we bring him back to bolster some depth even for the last 6 months of the season, purely with Matip's injury, or is Paul's thought process of possibly just selling him in the summer more plausible?
I think it's just a bit of a difficult situation, all round, because if you think him and Quansah kind of at the start very similar trajectory, both played sort of non-league or really low tier football, came in, and obviously Quansah's impressed, and I think at this point now, going on loan to Swansea didn't really work out. Aberdeen is not working out. I think his confidence is probably just shot to bits. And I think a big issue now is because his stock's so low. And personally, I would do the same. Let's say he's on, I don't know how much money he's on. Let's say he's on £30,000 a week. Is he going to get half of that? Where's he going to go? I think it's just a situation of he's probably just going to sit there and just wait out the contract, do a few more loans. And you can't blame him. It's a football career is a short career. You shouldn't feel forced out of your contract. I don't know. I think there was a podcast a while ago where there was one of the head of the academy or something, I don't think treated a lot of players particularly well. But when Brendan Rodgers was there, I don't know if you guys have seen that. But I just think it's just difficult. He's just going to I think Nat Phillips, if we need someone, I could really see Nat coming back. It's horrible for him because he should play. He's a good player. I would have liked maybe someone like a Brentford or a newly promoted team to take a look at him so he could play top flight. But for me personally, I don't know if he's sold, but I think Sepp van Vandenberg is probably, I'd rather see him come back than any of those, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a difficult situation all round because you want people to play and people want to play. But I just don't think as soon as players are back, they're not going to get a sniff. They'd rather play less. If you ask Klopp, you're going to get Konate at 50% of his best level, or Rhys Williams at 100. He's going to play Konate at 50% of his level. Yeah. It just doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I think it's just a difficult situation, unfortunately. And leading from one difficult situation into another, we then have Fabio Carvalho, who left obviously this summer for a loan move to RB Leipzig, following offers from AS Roma, AC Milan, Frankfurt, and Burnley, which he turned all of them down to go to Leipzig. And that's even gone worse. You'd nearly rather not play other than the way he's performing at the moment. Paul, do you even think he gets into the squad if he comes back right now, considering the rebolstering of the midfield, or is this a situation of needs to possibly be sold on and be given a fresh start with a lower tiered side than ourselves and build himself back up again? Because he's only a young kid. He came through with Harvey Elliott. He's
a talented kid, but he doesn't fit in our team. I think he plays more just behind his striker, like a 10.
Yeah.
And we don't play with the 10. So I don't think he has a future with Liverpool. I think we should sell him. I mean, send him on another loan move here or there. It's not doing the kid any good. We won't get much for him, maybe 10, 12, 15 million or whatever it is. But we didn't pay a lot for him anyway.
We bought him for 6.
Yeah.
So getting 15 or 16 million out of him, I think would be a great business, getting a 10 million profit.
Yeah, I think we should sell him, because, and I mean, he had some comments about Klopp, but I don't think that's anything really. That's not a reason why he's not with us. It's just that his style or what his position is not a position that is of need for us. So it's kind of pointless to bring him back. So I think we should just, you know what, in the off season, get 10 million and just say, you know what, wish you all the best and hope you succeed. But you just say you don't fit in the. It's similar thing to what happened with Gavin Birch at Bayern Munich. He has talent, but they don't play with an 8. You know, they play this 4-2-3-1 system. So that was the reason we're told that he wasn't playing. So, you know, it's kind of what you call horses for courses. So bringing back Carvalho to have him sit on the bench does nobody no good. So I think we should sell it.
Yeah, I think it's coming to that time as well, which is unfortunate considering my favorite. Obviously, when he came in, he scored that very, very late winner.
Against Newcastle.
And just went absolutely nuts. Hellier mentions here that he could thrive if he was in the Portuguese league. Like, he's still young and needs a league with a more focus on technical football. Would you be in agreement with what Hellier mentions there, that possibly maybe keep him and loan him again to another team? Paul says that he just needs to be gone at this point and we need to start moving these players on. But I think he doesn't fit in right now, but that's not saying he won't fit in a couple of years' time or even in a year or two's time for depth. Even at that point, he's a young kid. He's got boatloads of talent and potential. Possibly that the RB Leipzig move might have been the wrong move for him to develop himself, and he may have just made a bad decision that way. Do you think there's any particular place, as Hellier mentions, the Portuguese league, that would benefit a technical player like himself?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I see why he went to Leipzig, just because usually players that are successful in that system tend to be really good at Liverpool. But for me, I just think that was just like a terrible move. Say, for instance, he went to Burnley. He still would be getting that Prem experience. No matter how bad they are, he's still going to play on that team. But I just think that was just a bad move. And in terms of FSG, because I feel like they have a value for him that they want to sell him at. So I could see them bringing him back. Probably, like he said, either the Portuguese league or any other league, they're going to loan him out. And he's still very young, because we know he has that talent. At the moment, he's just not going to get in the team. So he's definitely going to get loaned out. I don't see him going this summer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Carter. Realistically, like, he's a talented young kid. He came in with Harvey Elliott, and we've seen how much Harvey Elliott has progressed, even following the gruesome injury that occurred with him. They both came from Fulham. That it was a very, very small fee that we got him from. We were very excited for him, and it kind of just fizzled out, unfortunately. Do you see a place for him in this Liverpool squad now or in the future, or do you think it's maybe time to cut ties, or should we continue to loan him out and see if anything develops?
I think the big issue for him is kind of what Elliot has, is the same kind of issue as where, because they're quite small and they're not the quickest, they need minutes. They need to get used to men's football. They need to know, like, just improve using their body. Like, if you look at Bernardo Silva, he's no bigger, no stronger, no quicker than any of those two. But he's gone and played enough minutes. He went and played in a very physical league in France, and he got himself used to, and he built himself up. And I just think he just needs to play. And at this point, there will be teams, like, although he's not had a good spell, there will be teams interested, because the one thing I would say, and I know he hasn't really scored or assisted for Leipzig, is if Carvalho played 38 games for a Premier League team, I think he would get a good amount of goals. Like, not ridiculous, but I think he could, if he played 38 games, I reckon maybe get maybe at least 7 goals. I think he knows he puts himself in positions, and he's a good finisher. He's got good quality, and goals are always looked for in the top level. If you look at someone like, if we maybe recalled him with Brentford, maybe look at him and say, I know he's a bit small, but they would maybe say, we need goals. We need someone who's going to play and maybe get us goals. And you look at lower down teams, I definitely think there could be a home for him, but also maybe a foreign league. But I think the difficulty is when you're on loan, sometimes you're not seen as committed, or you're not all into the team's success because you're more about your own performance and going back. So I think if he went to the Championship, although he might be better than a player, let's say he was at Leeds, he might be better than Nonto, I reckon the manager would probably play Nonto, because you're going to be with him in the Premier League. You may as well give that player minutes. So until we sell him, I just don't think he's going to kick on.
Yeah, as Helier points out, and it's a great example of it, of how Minamino is in the French league at the moment and how that league particularly fits to him. He has 5 goals and 4 assists in 14 matches so far, and Monaco are 3rd in the league. So it kind of just goes to show that maybe the Prem wasn't, not that it wasn't suiting him, but maybe he just needed time in a different league, in a different country, and the move to RB Leipzig and their press heavy similarity to Liverpool. He went from Liverpool to the German Liverpool, essentially. So that may not have benefited him either, considering how back and forth our squads go and how interchangeable they could be. But it's sad because I had so much hopes for him as a player, and I thought he would have been very, very well. But I do agree with you, Carter. I think he won't kick on until he has a fresh start, so to speak, and that's just unfortunate that it comes with that, because I think in about 5-10 years' time we could be looking at a very, very talented young player. But that is where we are going to finish it up today, guys. I want to thank Paul, Menti, and Carter for joining me. I'd like to thank Jen for her £4.99 and her wish for a festive Kev. We'll try and get him on in a Santa outfit. That'll be hilarious. And then also we have Michael Ramsey with his $2 as well in his opinion on Cade Gordon, which he has yet to clarify. But thank you so much. Very much appreciate it, guys. As always, lovely to be here, and it's a great pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you like and subscribe before we finish up, and make sure that you share this as well. We'll be back again tomorrow, 7:30 UK time. Apologies about being 10 minutes late today, but we'll be on time tomorrow. Thankfully, I didn't have Paul in the comments this time giving out to me for being late, as he normally does. He can't give out for me being late if he's on the stream. That's
Nope.
Appreciate it, guys. Much love to everybody. I hope everybody has a lovely evening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.